Well, I want to welcome everyone to Project Creation with online resources, inquiry and research collaboration between a teacher and a library technician workshop at 2020 Teaching History and Social Sciences in the Time of COVID-19 conference. So to get started, I just want to introduce these two amazing presenters so they can share their collaborative journey with us. Today, we have Catherine Doucette and Kate Smith, both from Guelph's Wellington Catholic District School Board at Bishop McDonald. Catherine's been part of the Wellington Catholic District School Board for 20 years and currently teaches history, civics, and religion. Passionate about engaging her students to become active citizens, she invests in them the skills to think critically about their responsibility to make our global community a more compassionate and inclusive place for everyone. Kate graduated with a BA Honors from McMaster University and is currently the library technician. New to secondary school learning, Kate's a lifelong learner, enthusiastic resource sharer, love that, and lover of history and cultural studies, audiobooks, and finding awe in the everyday. Before I turn it over to Catherine and Kate, I just want to let you know a few features about Zoom. If you're not speaking, if you can mute, that's great, just because it eliminates any background noise. There is a chat feature on the bottom that you'll see on your toolbar. Please feel free to post any questions, comments, resources. Kate and Catherine and myself will be monitoring the chat and bring to light any questions. The session is being recorded, so you can choose to have your camera on or off. That's your personal choice. On behalf of OHASTA, I just want to thank you for attending this year's conference, and I want to thank our presenters and turn it over to them now.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a little weirded out by seeing myself talk on a screen. So if you see me get rid of my screen, it's just so I can talk more freely and not feel like I'm looking in the mirror when I'm talking. So I'm going to do that right now, actually. So as it was mentioned, we're sitting here in Guelph, and I wanted to start out with our this area's treaty acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that we are gathered on the ancestral and treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation of the Anishinaabe peoples. These treaty lands are steeped rich in Indigenous history and modern traditions, and we would like to express our gratitude for sharing these lands for our mutual benefit. One thing that I've learned when we do take a moment to think about the land that we are on, it's a good opportunity for us to take a deep breath. And what I would like to invite you to do in the chat is I would like you to take a look at outside and what do you see in your environment that you feel grateful for or that might inspire you. We wrote the same thing. Here at Bishop Mac, I always take a moment when I share this with my students to ask them to think about sort of what is their responsibility about the land that we share. And then we often acknowledge that we have such a great property here at Bishop Mac. So I am very grateful for the space that we have, especially during this time of COVID, because we spend a lot of time walking outside. Oh, wow, you have snow, Melanie, crazy. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Some technical things. I just really need to Can I talk? Yeah. I just really need to comment on the fact that Karen, you wrote my computer, and I'm really enjoying that. That's the inspiring thing today. That's awesome. Okay, so sort of working with some stuff here. I'm just going to close that chat. All right, so my name is Kate Smith. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the library technician at this beautiful, beautiful library. Kathy is a wonderful teacher, and I'm so excited to work with her. And so when we were trying to figure out how to do our presentation, it was so hard to figure out how to organize it. And we realized that we were like, we're just going to organize it with how we made the project, because that was the exciting part for us, just like the process of making the project and then where we can go from there. So that's what you're seeing just on the front, is just the steps that we took. And I'm not too sure, sorry, if someone could just tell me, can you see my full chat window, or do you just see me? Because you just see me? I'm just asking Sarah there. Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
See,
because make sure you can still see what's written there. So this is just our process in what we did. And so that's how we're gonna fill out our presentation. All right.
The only thing that you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. So at this time, Sarah, could you post poll question number 1? So if you could take a minute to answer this question, at your school, is the library, do you use it more as a resource or a space? Kate, do you Sarah, do you post the results for us?
I can't. No. Sarah, I don't know. You're muted.
oh, sorry. Here are the results.
I'm going to speak to that, Kathy. All right, great. So Kathy and I are in the same room, so it creates some technical difficulties. So we're probably going to struggle through that. So I can see that a lot of people use it as a space and might not necessarily recognize it as a resource. And I think it's really important to understand that how we view the library or the library learning commons really defines how we use that space. So I'm just going to turn it over to Kathy, and she's going to talk about her reasons for approaching.
Okay, thanks, Kate. So first of all, I want to acknowledge that teachers often get more credit for stuff, and there's absolutely no way that I need or deserve more credit than Kate. And without Kate, none of this would have been possible. And as we go through this and we explain how we develop this resource for our students, you will see that the collaboration between both of us had an integral part, but I learned a lot as a teacher throughout this process. So I want to address the poll question. So I love the library. I use the library a lot as a teacher. I often book it. I teach history, civics, so we're often in the library doing research. Or sometimes it's just because we have a big, beautiful library. It's just a really nice space to change it up from the classroom. And the process at our school is I book the library, I say how many computers I would like, and Kate says, what are you working on? Send me a copy of your assignment. I'll get together some resources for you. So we share that, and over time she becomes familiar with our assignments. And what that looks like is it's often, here's the stack of books for, Indigenous issues. Here's the Black History display. Here's the World War II display. And oh, don't forget about Gale, because we have a lot of resources on Gale. So I would arrive to the library, and you can see on the screen that there are the student learning outcomes. So a lot of my assignments have these typical student learning outcomes. So I arrive to the library with my students. They have a copy of the assignment. Often it has very specific success criteria written out. I teach grade 10s mostly, so I have graphic organizers, and we get into the library and we know what it is we're about to do. Kate introduces the library space. She says, if you need anything, let me know, and the kids start the process. During the process of the kids working on an assignment, I can give feedback. I can see, who's not working, who's stuck. And a lot of the questions are like, where do I find this source? How do I find this resource? I can't find any resources on my topic. So we navigate through that. And at the end of the lesson, I can see whether or not they've met my intended outcomes. So I have a question for you to post your answer in the chat. What's missing from this process? What part of what I just explained about a typical experience in the library would be difficult for you or your students? So in the chat, what's missing from this? I'll give you a hint. There are things missing. I'll let you think on that. And if you have anything to add throughout this, please feel free to add your thoughts anytime throughout this. So what was missing for me from this process was sort of the student engagement in the process of research. And at the end of it, what was their retention of what it is I wanted to do with them, and where was the evidence or the ability for them to practice their skills? So I had it in my mind last school year, because Kate's new to our library, and I'm like, all right, let's develop a resource. Let's make researching more straightforward for them. Well, then COVID hit, and we were all sent home. And when we all went home during COVID, like many of you, as a teacher, I had to first and foremost, take care of my family, my health. The health and well-being of our students was most important. And once we sorted, once we got back into school, we decided, all right, we're going to do a little bit of schoolwork. So as a teacher, I had to decide what is it I was going to do. And I thought that, of course, learning history is an important topic, World War I, World War II. Yes, but I wanted my students to walk away with some skills. And so I asked Kate, while we were learning at home, if she could make me a virtual resource to guide the students through the research skills. And that's sort of how our idea came to life.
Great. So as Carrie Ann said, yeah, we were missing, so Kathy said the students were missing their engagement with the programs that they were working with. And Carrie Ann's right, we were missing an element of collaboration that just makes everything better, right? Because I can put out all my resources and that's great, but I need someone really special to bring it to the teachers. So I was incredibly enthusiastic, as I think a lot of library people would be, because I feel like in the library, I'm not used as much as I want to be used. I have all these things I want to share, and it's often overlooked. So these are the things that I have available to me. So I knew that I had access to e-resources. I knew that our school board thankfully subscribes to Gale databases. So a lot of what I do is through Gale. That being said, I did through CVent in the description, we've left several links to our assignment and the project we did, but also a list of e-resource sort of quick tutorial videos of me going through ProQuest, EBSCOhost, Google Scholar, and those are things in Guelph. We have those things through the public library, and I cannot say enough about the awesomeness of the public library, especially in a situation where maybe people are working from home, maybe some school boards are more remote or they don't have those subscriptions. So it's really fantastic that we live in a world where we have so much information that's available to us, and our job as educators is to share it. So hopefully you guys will get a chance to sort of look on those videos, and maybe they can work for you. You're welcome to share them with your students. And oh, great. So you're looking at the slideshow right now. I'm not too sure what that. Oh, you posted it. Oh, excellent. So Kathy just said that she posted the link to the slideshow in the chat. So feel free while I'm talking to go ahead and look at the slideshow that we provided for the students that we created. And in it, you'll see that it sort of just takes them through the steps of just getting into the program, because that's sometimes hard enough, how to search for things, and always keeping it really general, because students don't need to know the tiny little details that library people do. Like, they really need to know basic understanding. They need to be able to find featured things within the databases that sort of guide them and lead them to what they're looking for. Students a lot of the time have problems brainstorming search terms, and for me, for Gale anyway, which is a database, they have a lot of features that really sort of help the students and guide them to where they need to be. So there's research databases. There's also, of course, the internet, right? So you know, virtual tours, interviews, all of that kind of stuff, and those things can be combined with databases. Like, you can watch a video and then find an article that relates to it. And it's really open what you can do with databases, not just let's go find an article, then we're going to write a paper, and then we're going to cite it. Like, you can mix those up. And that's what we were hoping to achieve in our Google slides. So one of the things we like to mix up are our citation tools. We are fortunate to have Noodle Tools, which is we subscribe to it. And it has some pretty cool features in it. You can do an annotated bibliography, which is cool. You can take like notes and stuff like that, and graphic organizing type people like that. Other students will use Cite This or EasyBib. So which is great. They're using their tools, and what's important is that we start to see how the tools work together, right? So, you know, you go to the public library online, and then you find a research database, and then you export the citation tool. And those are like the basic things we wanted to convey to the students, and then we're going to move on from there. So one of the things that was available to me also are they're called pathfinders or projects, or just like resource lists. And over the summer, with the explosion of lots of anti-Black racism sources coming out, I needed to put this all in one spot for people. So resource lists are really good for that type of thing. And once students understand that they're available, and educators understand that they're available, they start to look for those a bit more, and you can get your students to make them, which is cool. So yeah, so that's pretty much what I had to do. And then once I found all those resources, then I had to make videos on it and put it in the slideshow. But it was kind of in a vacuum, and we had to do something with that information. So on to the assignment.
So during COVID, Kate created the Google slideshow. Some of you might have checked it out, and for its intended purpose at the time, it was perfect. Students could learn how to access Gale, because I wasn't with them to answer their questions. What is the password? You know, where do I go on the website? So it was a really good sort of how to, and it was useful for some of my students when they were learning at home. And I gave my students an opportunity. Some of them wanted to write an essay. I had some IB students who would be IB candidates in grade 11, and I knew that. So I said, if you want, we've got the time to write an essay, and here's a resource to help start the research project, and I'll give you lots and lots of feedback. So I really think you should write an essay. So they found the resource useful. And then school ended, and I teach summer school. So I signed up to teach summer school, and I teach grade 11 world religions at the M level. And there's quite a research component to that course. And I thought of the assignment that Kate and I had created, or the Google slideshow. And I thought, I need to share that with my students in summer school, but I need it to be a little bit more than just a Google slideshow presentation. How do I assess their using of this resource, and what other skills can I assess from that? So then I called Kate and I said, I think that I want to use this in summer school. Can you redo the videos to make them, topic specific for world religions? and there's something missing, I can't assess the process, I think we should make an assignment. So I came up with the idea for the assignment and the steps that I wanted to do. And Kate's an awesome editor. And so she edited all my language, and she sort of helped me create the success criteria for the assignment. And in a moment, I'm going to post the assignment in the chat box. And I think that that's where Kate takes over.
Great. So I'm just gonna, yeah, okay. So perfect. It was important for me when we were developing the assignment that each step build on the last. So, first step, just get into the program. Can we get them into the program in a way they're going to remember? Great, done. Okay, next step, let's see if we can find an article. And I made a point when I was creating the resources to, I'm pretty much giving them the article. Like I'm pretty much saying, here's an article and here are 10 of its friends that you could use in your paper. And the reason for that is yes, they will think critically about that content, and yes, they will find stuff, but I don't, they're still new. So I don't want students to feel overwhelmed by trying to find search terms or trying to locate exactly what the teacher asked for. So it was important that with these videos that were created and put into the slideshow and then addressed in the assignment, that we give them the information, they can sort of take away what they want. And hopefully, because it builds, and every step you're asked to, once again, send the citation, once again, save the article. Hopefully, so that's in grade 10, but hopefully by the time they get to grade 12, they're saying, I want to make a resource list. I want to make a Pathfinder and create a topic for other students to use. And that's sort of where I wanted to go with the assignment. So I'm just going to show you what these Pathfinders look like. And I create them in our library program. I go in and I add some educational websites, government websites, and then that way a teacher like Kathy can say, I'm doing a project on Canadian history post-World War I. What do you got for me? And so instead of sending the students out into the internet, into the virtual world, we sort of keep it controlled by giving them resources that I've already sort of checked, or that I know lead to another resource list. So you can see like this first one is great because it's a resource list that's already made and I'm just sort of directing them to it. Now I make this within our library program, but you don't have to do that. Like you can just make a Google Doc that you can share with your students, or you can have your students share with you and work on that together. So this next slide is just an example of the question that we used for the project resource list there. And it was devised, we're trying to keep it at a grade 10 level, and it's great because you can differentiate the Google slide. We wanted to make it really changeable for different classes or different grade levels. So this one, it's looking towards trying to create some critical thinking. We want them to look at the available resources and sort of, Miss Smith, that one wasn't actually that great. It doesn't apply to anything that we're learning. And if a student comes to me and says that, that's amazing, because that means they actually thought about what they were doing. And if we can get them to do that and then be able to assess them, that's fantastic, because then we know that they're meeting all those learning goals. So I've explained a bit about things that were available to us. So once again, we have our research databases and the entire World Wide Web. We can always take the World Wide Web and try to combine it with the database to get them really thinking about what it is they're seeing online. And that's one example of something that can be done. But I think we're going to do a breakout session. I'm just going to send it over to Kathy and she'll explain that a bit to you.
Before we go to the breakout session, Sarah, I forgot to ask you to post the poll question, the second poll question. I still think it's relevant, and Kate and I will address the results. So if you could post the second poll question. Do you want to address that? So I kind of want to back up because we do have the time to be able to do that. So when I asked Kate to create that Google slideshow for me to use, and then I created the assignment to go with it, I realized that I actually didn't know how to do a lot of what I was asking my students to do. So, watch the videos, practiced, and then over time, my proficiency improved. But at the beginning of this, I could not teach my students how to sort of access all of this. And I needed to be able to do that because we were no longer in the library. It was COVID, and I was teaching an e-learning course. And this ended up evolving into, we actually created an exemplar. So we did the assignment ourselves, and we actually have a very simplified answer key to share with students before they do the assignment.
And I got a level 4. I
Yeah.
did really good on my assignment. Yeah, sure. That's awesome. I'm actually, like I said, I'm new to secondary. So in elementary, the answer to this is like, no one knows what I'm talking about. So kudos to you guys for being aware of databases at all. My personal knowledge of it was just remembering being in university and frantically trying to find articles. And then being a little bit nerdy and enjoying frantically finding the articles. So yeah, so it's good to see that you guys have an understanding of what that is. And I'm really hoping that because you are familiar with it, you might be able to think of it more like the databases, because they're filled with articles and interviews and primary sources, and a lot of them are updated daily. And I like to think of it as a new textbook, like the students are learning from home. We don't want to let them just go off and grab whatever. You want to sort of be mindful of the content. And I think that the databases offer a really good opportunity to sort of level the playing field, like everyone, it can be accessible to everyone, especially through the public library. I'm interested in, everyone's not 100% that they could teach their students, but the neat thing about the database, and this is the thing to teach your coworkers, teach your students, databases are pretty much all the same. So once you can sort of figure out the mechanics of one, you can figure out the mechanics of other ones. And when you understand that things like Google are just sort of scattered databases where they have lots of information, the students start to respond to it a bit better when they understand what it is they're actually working in. And we're fortunate that we have Gale, because it does offer a number, and I'm not like telling you to go out buy Gale or anything like that. I'm just saying that I love it because it has a lot of featured content, and it has a lot of easy to click things that sort of guide the students to where they need to go. And that's really important to me. And it's important that the students understand how to get back to the article they were using so they can expand on it, right? Like you want them to revisit it and think, oh, maybe that wasn't good enough. The other thing is, if you guys understand how to use the things, then you can develop assignments better. If you're using the tool, and it doesn't have to be the database, it could be a citation tool, it could be a virtual tour of something. If you're familiar as teachers with what it is that you're doing, then the students will become familiar with it. So thank you for answering that poll. That's fantastic.
So we're going to break out into discussion groups. Sarah, I think the group's large enough and I think we have the time. Maybe 3 groups, Sarah, does that work?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what's going to happen is Sarah's going to, if you've ever been in this session, it's really cool. You'll get sorted into a group. And then what I'm going to do, hopefully someone in your group will be able to pull up the Google document that all of us are going to have access to. And in that Google document, Sarah, can you put the link to that in the chat before we break in our groups? So if you click on that Google document, there are 2 questions in there. And if you as a group could add your thoughts and then we'll come together. It's 5 minutes good, Sarah? 6 minutes? Like what's a good time for that? Sorry?
Yeah, let's, we can do 5 minutes.
Okay.
Or actually longer if you want. What are you thinking, Kate?
Yeah, let's do 6 minutes.
6 minutes, perfect.
Let's try 6 minutes in the breakout group. And then we'll see, and then we'll come back together after. And don't forget to pull up the Google Doc.
Okay, so here we go.
I think we're all going to be put in.
Oh.
Can I talk in the breakout room?
Okay.
It'll be like a Zoom.
I will go to breakout. Am I screen sharing?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes, you are. Or no, actually, it's just you.
It's just my face.
Here we go. Now you are.
Please. Can you mute yourself? So Kathy, I'm not gonna lie. We did not type anything into that Google Doc and I feel really bad about that. We chatted a bit though, so that was cool. I actually don't see what it is that they typed in. So did you want to comment on that? There's no typing. Okay, that's cool. So in my session, I really liked someone, I won't name names, someone was speaking about having students, here we call them English language learners, where a lot of this stuff they need to know, but like they might not understand it at that level, or they might not be ready to sort of grasp all those skills. And I like that was said because it was really important. We actually didn't realize how important it was until we tried giving it to other classes, that whatever we created, whatever template we were hoping to promote as a basic, this is where we're starting from, needed to make accommodations for all our students and teachers, right? Because I might be okay at swapping out videos and changing stuff up, but another teacher might not want to be involved in that at all. So it's those types of things ended up taking a really long time. Oh, are there? I don't have my channel. Did you want to speak to that, Kathy? You have to unmute.
So someone just mentioned in the chat that it would that this could be a good resource to share with new staff that come in, and I thought that was an awesome idea to add there. So before we end up, because we do have the time to sort of talk about, you know, ask questions and just sort of to share ideas. This is definitely an evolving process for Kate and I, and that's kind of what's exciting. Every time we sort of sit down and we look at the assignment, we think about an element that we could add. Like I want to add research notes. Like I actually want to see my students, you know, use a function to, you know, start to sort and organize their research.
There's a tool that will do that.
And there is,
and they can share it with you.
And then what I really like about this assignment that Kate and I created is in summer school, or if you're teaching, you know, e-learning, you could assign one step at a time. and then, you know, it allows for the feedback. Or you could give them the whole, you know, the 4 steps. It wouldn't take that long, and you could do it that way. In class, you know, I have 10 more days left with my grade 10 history class, and clearly this quadmester, I'm not going to be writing a full essay like I would in a regular semester, but I am definitely going to take them through the process of how to research for an essay, and, you know, how to critically think about the sources that they could use, you know, to answer the big questions in the course. You know, what was significant, you know, for Canada's identity, or, you know, whatever the topic is. So this resource, especially during a shortened semester, I see as a really valuable tool. And what I like is the skills continually build on each other, and the opportunities for next steps are endless.
You know what I like? Sorry, if you want to mute yourself. I like so the databases, they'll have like new information that's updated daily, but then they have these like newspaper clippings from, you know, wartime or like the 1800s or something like that. So it's almost like when we were younger and we'd go to the library and we'd be looking up the microfilm and we'd have to mess around with that. Well, now it's just online, and so you can compare those two. So you know, if we're talking about culture and current culture and how we considered First Nations, Métis, Inuit in the past, and how that was being sort of presented to the public through newspapers and magazines and whatnot, we can look at that, and then we can ask our students, or you could say, you know, this half of the class, you're going to look up First Nations from 1960s, and let's see what the newspapers say. And this half of the class, I'd like you to see what they're saying this week. Like what is the current climate or what is the current discussion regarding that? And it allows them to sort of see both perspectives. So it's not like a textbook where you just get the information that the textbook wants you to have. You have all these different sources, and it might be a matter of, you know, like we did the crap test and this source kind of sucks. So where can we find a better source? So if it's encouraging the students to ask questions like that, and then maybe they're like, you know what, we have this resource list. There's a bunch of organizations. Let's see what the organizations have to say, and let's see what their resources are. So just always building on it. Pardon? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We're communicating back and forth, sorry. We're just about, we're close to finishing up our time. I get really excited because I don't know what your schools are like, and I'm new to secondary, as I've mentioned repeatedly, but I just feel underused. Like especially because the library is closed, and I do have time to create these things and time to collaborate with teachers. And I think that collaboration is so important because we both bring different things. Like I can give stuff, but I have no idea, I have no way of assessing if what I'm doing is working. So it's really important for me to get the feedback from the teacher. Also, when students come into the library and ask me for help with their assignments, it's good to know what they're talking about. So for me, yeah, this was a really important collaboration, and it gave me an opportunity to actually provide resources that, you know, before COVID, teachers are kind of doing their own thing. And like Kathy said, they come in, and I didn't get a chance to really explain how we could kind of get into our resources, because that's what I'm into. I'd just like to open it up. If there are any questions, you're welcome to put those in the chat, and we can answer that, or anything to contribute or tips, give me some tips. I love that. That would be fantastic. So you can do that now if you want.
You can also unmute yourself and just speak to all of us. We're a really small group, so if you have something you'd like to ask or add, and I'm just reading right now what was written. We don't have time to get students to write a formal essay. We can get them to create research notes and do graphic organizers or one-page response. Yes, absolutely. And that's sort of the that's the next step. That's the piece that's missing. So once you, yeah, I really like that idea. That's actually a great idea. Instead of actually answering the question, to do that. Any other thoughts or questions or how to add to this in a time when we're really not writing essays right now?
Or if there's a program that you're really into that you think would work well with this type of thing, that would be great to know as well. I've mentioned the virtual museum a few times, so I'm clearly excited to see how I can take the museum and then ask the students to find an article that somehow relates to that. And then,
I like that, because you could ask the students to come up with a question and a thesis, and then come up with their evidence sources based on their research, critically think about them, you know, without writing the essay itself. So you could do all of the components for it, and the skills are that. So I really like that. Thank you, Jan. Any other thoughts or questions?
I really like the idea with culture having access to so many things present and past.
Yes.
Like in all the reading that I've been doing recently, there's lots of, you know, people sort of waxing poetic about James Baldwin or Angela Davis, and I like that I can go into these.
Oh, we lost you, Kate. I think your sound's off, Kate.
Thesis and the sources, like that's the main bulk, right? And then the writing is also very important to learn to write.
Can you go to the next slide?
Yeah.
I just want to. Yep.
Oh.
So I'm not. We can still continue our conversation. I just wanted to, if you get a chance to go through the resources again, Kate is the mastermind behind a lot of this. You know, I come with my curriculum, I come with my expectations, I come with the learning goal. I can write success criteria like nobody's business, but it really wouldn't have turned out as well if I hadn't worked with Kate. When you go through sort of all of the assignments and the articles, again, you'll see how you can completely adjust, remove, just make a copy of it. But if you have any questions at any time how we did this, there's Kate and I's contact information, and we would be happy to share or collaborate information with you as well. So I think that that's what's so great about what OHASTA and the other teachers social from the other provinces, which is quite incredible that we're all together. I think that that's great.
Snow today.
No snow here. No, there's
No snow
sun.
here.
There's sun here.
Also, within the slideshow is a link to the YouTube channel that I use where I just post these really exciting student research videos. So you guys are welcome. Use them. Go for it. Or use other people's videos that might be better. I don't know. They're easy to find. They're usually within the programs themselves. And thank you, Sarah, for setting up for us. That was very, very nice of you. And it's so late on Friday.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. And thanks to OHASTA for the opportunity to be able to do this. This was our first time, and I'm so glad it's done now. And we spent a lot of time thinking about it, but it's super excited and would love to do this again. So thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you on behalf of OHASTA and everyone here that's participating, as well as all of the teachers that are going to be viewing after.
You're muted.
Oh. Am I muted now?
Still can't hear you. Because I'm muted. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
You
can't hear me, can you?
I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I just wanted to say on behalf of OHASTA and all of the educators and organizations here now, and those that will be listening to the recording, I really, really appreciate both of you sharing your collaborative journey. I'm excited to start using pieces of this for sure in my senior social science class. So
Awesome.
if anybody has any questions and they want to stay on, feel free. I'm going to just end the recording now, but thank you everybody for your time on this beautiful Friday. Thank you, Kate and Catherine.
Thank you.
So we
We-
just